Beloved friends, I stand before you with a simple key, a key so small yet so mighty, a key so easy to carry yet able to unlock every closed door in your life. Listen carefully, say this 3 times, and all doors will open. There are many doors in our lives: the door of healing, the door of provision, the door of reconciliation, the door of promotion. But too often these doors look shut, locked, sealed with iron. We knock and nothing happens. We push and it will not move. We weep and the hinges do not turn. But let me tell you something today. There is a heavenly key that can open what no man can shut. There is a word of power that can swing wide the gates of blessing. And that word is this: I believe. I believe. I believe. Say it once and doubt begins to tremble. Say it twice and fear starts to flee. Say it 3 times and every prison door swings open. When you speak faith, you are not just whispering into the air. You are aligning your voice with heaven. You are calling on the one who holds the master key. You are declaring that your God is bigger than your problem, greater than your sickness, stronger than your enemy. Say it in the morning, I believe. Say it in the noonday, I believe. Say it at midnight when the chains feel heaviest, I believe. And suddenly the doors of discouragement will break open. The doors of lack will be shattered. The doors of loneliness will give way to joy unspeakable. My friends, stop standing in front of locked doors, complaining. Stop pacing back and forth in front of walls. Lift your head, lift your voice, and speak the key of faith. Say it once. Say it twice. Say it 3 times. I believe. I believe. I believe. Then watch as the doors swing wide. Faith is the master key to every closed door. When we look at life, we see so many barriers, so many obstacles, so many doors that seem impossible to open. There are doors of opportunity that we cannot push through, doors of relationships that seem locked, doors of finances that appear sealed, doors of health that will not budge, doors of peace that remain closed while storms rage within us. And people try everything to open those doors. They use logic, but logic cannot open them. They use money, but money cannot unlock them. They use connections, but connections fail. They use willpower, but even that can collapse when the weight is too heavy. Yet there is a master key that can open every door, and that master key is faith. Faith is not just positive thinking. Faith is not just optimism. Faith is not simply hoping that things will work out someday. Faith is the certainty of things not seen, the assurance of things hoped for. Faith is the invisible hand that takes hold of the key of heaven and places it on the lock of earth. Faith is the spiritual force that moves what cannot be moved. Faith is not passive, it is active. It does not sit still and wait for doors to open by themselves. Faith walks up to the door, inserts the key, and turns it with confidence, knowing the lock must respond to the authority behind it. Consider how doors operate. A door is designed to close off one space from another. It is designed to keep you out of where you are not yet allowed to go. It creates separation between the present and the future, between the known and the unknown, between captivity and freedom. But a door is never meant to be permanent. A door always has a lock, and a lock always has a key. You cannot break down every door with your strength, but you can unlock it with the right key. Faith is that universal key that fits the locks of sickness, lack, despair, brokenness, and limitation. Faith does not ask, how can this door open? Faith declares, this door must open. Faith does not analyze the thickness of the wood or the heaviness of the iron. Faith does not measure the chains or count the bolts. Faith simply says, I know the one who holds all keys, and he has placed his authority in my mouth and in my heart. Therefore, I will speak. I will believe. I will unlock. That is why faith is the master key. It does not matter what the door looks like, because the power is not in the door, the power is in the key. Some people stand before closed doors and complain. They cry, they grow weary, they even turn away, thinking it is not for them. They see the locked door and conclude, maybe it was never meant for me. But faith refuses to accept that. Faith insists that if the door is in front of me, it must be connected to my destiny. If the door exists, it means there is something valuable on the other side. If the door is locked, it does not mean denial, it means preparation. The key is faith, and faith will turn that lock at the right time. Faith is not limited by circumstances. A sick body may be a closed door, but faith says healing will open. An empty bank account may be a closed door, but faith says provision will open. A broken relationship may be a closed door, but faith says reconciliation will open. A heart filled with fear may be a closed door, but faith says peace will open. Faith is the master key because it operates beyond human limitation. It draws from divine power, not human effort. Faith works when nothing else works. Faith works when medicine has no cure, when doors of employment stay shut, when doors of favor remain sealed, when doors of understanding are locked. Faith steps in where logic ends. Faith becomes the bridge where there is no road. Faith becomes the ladder where there is no staircase. Faith becomes the master key when every other key has failed. The master key is called faith because it does not just open one type of door. A normal key is limited. It only works for one lock, one door, one situation. But the master key can open them all. Faith is not limited to one area of life. The same faith that heals can provide. The same faith that restores can protect. The same faith that delivers can elevate. Faith is not segmented. It is universal. Wherever there is a door, faith can unlock it. Faith is also persistent. Sometimes you turn the key and the door opens immediately. Other times you turn the key and the lock seems stuck. But persistence is part of faith. The key still fits. The lock still recognizes it. The hinges are still under its authority. Keep turning, keep speaking, keep believing. Eventually, the lock will surrender and the door will open wide. Faith is the master key not only because it opens doors, but because it changes the one holding it. When you walk with faith, you no longer fear closed doors. You no longer tremble at rejection. You no longer shrink at impossibility. You see a closed door, and instead of despair, you feel excitement because you know this is the moment for the master key to work. You carry yourself differently when you hold the key. You walk with confidence. You stand with authority. You speak with boldness. The presence of faith in your life transforms you from a beggar at locked gates to a master with keys in hand. When you say, "I believe," you are placing that master key into the lock. The very act of speaking faith is turning the key. Each declaration of belief is pressure against the lock, force against the mechanism, energy against the resistance. And the more you say it, the more the lock yields, the more the hinges groan, the more the door begins to swing. That is why faith must be spoken, declared, and repeated. It is the way the key is applied to the lock. Faith is the master key to every closed door because it does not depend on your strength, your wealth, your wisdom, or your connections. It depends on the unseen, eternal power that responds to belief. It depends on alignment with the invisible realm that governs the visible. It depends on trust in the one who already holds every key and who has chosen to place that same authority into your hands. Declaration activates divine power. Words are not empty sounds released into the air. They are carriers of force, vessels of authority, instruments of creation. From the very beginning, the universe was shaped not by silent thought, but by spoken word. Light appeared because it was declared. Seas were divided because they were commanded. Dry land emerged because it was spoken. Every great act of transformation begins with a declaration because speech connects the invisible with the visible, the spiritual with the natural, the eternal with the temporary. When a person declares with faith, it is not the same as ordinary conversation. A declaration made in faith carries weight, power, and energy that goes far beyond human expression. It is not simply communication, but creation. It is the releasing of something that already exists in the unseen realm into the seen realm. The tongue becomes a channel, the mouth a gate, the voice a key. What lies hidden behind the door of heaven flows outward through the act of declaration, and it begins to shape the circumstances that seemed unmovable. Many people underestimate the power of their words. They think words vanish after they are spoken, but words are seeds. Every declaration is a seed planted into the soil of the Spirit. Some seeds wither because they are words of doubt, fear, and negativity. Others take root and produce harvest because they are words of faith, confidence, and alignment with the divine will. A declaration is not just information, it is impartation. When you declare, you do not only describe what is, you determine what will be. Think about the authority in a royal decree. When a king or ruler speaks, armies move, doors open, chains are released, and nations tremble. The words themselves are not heavy pieces of iron or physical forces, but they carry the authority of the throne. In the same way, when you declare in faith, your words carry the authority of heaven's throne. They carry weight not because of who you are alone, but because of the power backing you. That is why a declaration with faith activates divine power. It is the signal, the command, the release that causes heaven to respond. There are moments when silence will not move the mountains. Silence will not break the chains. Silence will not open the doors. Silence may keep you in meditation, but declaration calls power into action. When you speak aloud, you are not only convincing your mind, you are aligning the atmosphere. Sound waves leave your mouth, and they carry authority into the space around you. They shift the environment. They disturb the forces of opposition. They summon help from the unseen. A declaration is not wasted breath. It is a trumpet blast that shakes both the visible and invisible world. When you declare, you also strengthen your own spirit. The words you speak become a fortress around your heart. When you declare healing, your body hears it. When you declare provision, your soul responds to it. When you declare victory, your mind is trained to believe it. The echo of your own words returns to you and reinforces your faith. Just as negative declarations weaken and discourage, positive declarations infused with faith create confidence and boldness. They stir courage. They ignite determination. They break hesitation. The door of impossibility responds to declaration. You may stand before a barrier that seems immovable, but when you lift your voice and declare, you place the power of heaven against it. A whispered doubt cannot do this, but a bold declaration spoken with conviction can. Declaration is the way you take authority over the locked places of your life. It is not enough to think quietly about what you desire. The key is to speak it forth. The act of declaring sets things in motion, as though heaven has been waiting for your voice to give permission for power to flow. Declaration is not begging. It is not pleading with uncertainty. It is not repeating words without faith. Declaration is commanding with confidence, speaking with authority, aligning with truth. It is not the volume of the words that gives them power, but the faith behind them. A whisper filled with faith can carry more power than a shout filled with fear. The critical factor is the alignment of the heart with the authority of the declaration. Every door has ears. The door of sickness hears when you declare health. The door of lack hears when you declare abundance. The door of fear hears when you declare peace. The door of bondage hears when you declare freedom. These doors may resist, but they cannot remain shut forever when a persistent declaration of faith continues to strike against them. Declarations are like blows of a hammer. One by one they weaken the resistance until suddenly the lock gives way and the door swings wide. The act of declaring 3 times carries special force. The first declaration begins the shaking. The second declaration weakens the opposition. The third declaration seals the breakthrough. Repetition engraves the truth deeper into your spirit and releases greater force into the atmosphere. When you say, "I believe," once, you position your heart. When you say it twice, you push back against doubt. When you say it 3 times, you activate a surge of divine power that cannot be ignored. Repetition in declaration is not redundancy, it is reinforcement. It is hammering the nail deeper, striking the lock harder, pressing the point until the door must respond. Declaration also draws a boundary. When you declare something, you establish where you stand and what you allow. You tell fear it has no entry. You tell despair it has no space. You tell sickness it has no dominion. You tell lack it has no right. Words spoken with faith become walls of defense, barriers of protection, shields of light. Without declaration, the boundaries remain undefined and anything can cross them. With declaration, the lines are drawn and authority is established. When you declare with faith, You are not only opening your own doors, but sometimes opening doors for others. Your words can create an atmosphere of breakthrough around your family, your community, your workplace. You may declare healing and see someone else touched. You may declare provision and watch doors open for your household. You may declare peace and sense it ripple outward to others around you. Declaration carries not only personal power, but also communal impact. Because the sound of faith never dies when it is released. It continues to move, to echo, to touch. Repetition builds unshakable belief. One declaration may light a spark, but repetition is what fans that spark into a blazing fire. The human heart is easily swayed, easily distracted, easily discouraged. One word spoken in faith may stir courage for a moment, but repetition carves that courage deep into the soul until it becomes immovable. When you hear yourself say something again and again, it begins to shape your inner reality. It shifts from being a hopeful thought into a conviction. Convictions are not easily shaken, and convictions are formed by repetition. Every day, the mind is bombarded with countless voices. Voices of fear, voices of doubt, voices of failure, voices of regret. These voices do not whisper once, they repeat themselves continually. Doubt is persistent. Fear is repetitive. Negativity repeats itself until it builds a stronghold in the heart. That is why faith must also be repeated. If the voice of fear is constant, then the voice of faith must be louder and more consistent. Repetition in faith is not vain, it is necessary. It is the steady hammering that breaks down the walls of unbelief and silences the echoes of doubt. When you repeat words of faith, you are not trying to convince the universe, you are training yourself. The first time you say, I believe, it may sound like hope. The second time you say, I believe, it begins to feel like truth. The third time and beyond, it becomes an unshakable conviction that nothing can uproot. Repetition engraves faith into your very being. Just as water drops falling again and again can carve a stone, so repeated declarations of faith carve unshakable belief into your heart. Repetition also builds memory. The mind tends to forget in moments of pressure. When storms arise, it is easy to forget the promises, to forget the truths, to forget the victories of the past. But repetition inscribes the declaration so deeply that even under stress it resurfaces. Soldiers train through repetition so that in the heat of battle, their responses are automatic. In the same way, when you repeat declarations of faith, you are training your spirit to respond with belief even in crisis. The words will rise unbidden, the conviction will stand firm, and the door will open. Repetition is discipline. Faith is not always an instant surge of confidence. Sometimes it must be built through repeated practice. Just as muscles grow when exercised again and again, belief grows when spoken and repeated. Each repetition strengthens the inner man. Each repetition adds another layer of resilience. Each repetition builds a structure that cannot collapse easily. Without repetition, faith remains fragile. With repetition, faith becomes unshakable. Consider the child who learns to speak. At first, the words are uncertain, shaky, incomplete. But through repetition, they become fluent. In the same way, the first declarations of faith may sound weak, hesitant, even doubtful. But through repetition, the words become strong, fluent, and powerful. What once felt unnatural becomes second nature. What once felt forced becomes effortless. Repetition is the bridge between weakness and strength, between hesitation and confidence, between hope and certainty. Repetition does not only affect the speaker, it affects the atmosphere. When a sound is repeated, it creates a rhythm. Rhythm builds momentum, momentum builds power. A single clap is a noise, but repeated clapping becomes a force that stirs hearts. A single heartbeat is fragile, but repeated heartbeats sustain life. In the same way, repeated declarations of faith build a rhythm that carries power into the atmosphere. It is not just words anymore. It becomes a vibration of authority that shakes the environment around you. Repetition wears down resistance. Every locked door has a mechanism that resists being opened, but no resistance can last forever against continual pressure. One strike of the hammer may not break the stone, but repeated strikes eventually shatter it. One wave against the cliff may not make a difference, but repeated waves carve valleys into solid rock. In the same way, repeated declarations of faith strike again and again at the locks of impossibility until they break. Repetition is persistence, and persistence guarantees breakthrough. Repetition also silences the inner critic. The mind often argues, "This cannot be. This will not happen. This is too much." But when faith is repeated, the critic grows tired. The inner argument loses strength. The declaration becomes louder than the doubt. Repetition drowns out the voices of negativity until they fade into silence. The heart, once filled with questions, becomes filled with conviction. The power of repetition lies in its ability to override the constant chatter of unbelief. Every tradition, every ritual, every act of devotion relies on repetition because repetition imprints. Songs are learned by repetition. Prayers are remembered by repetition. Skills are mastered by repetition. In the same way, unshakable belief is not born in a single moment, but in the continual repetition of faith-filled declarations. The habit of speaking faith becomes a lifestyle, and a lifestyle becomes identity. Eventually, you do not only speak faith, you embody it. Repetition also unlocks deeper layers of meaning. The first time you declare something, you may only understand it on the surface. But as you repeat it, revelation deepens, new insights arise. The declaration begins to unfold new dimensions of truth. A single phrase, repeated often, can become a well of wisdom, drawing up deeper water each time it is spoken. The words remain the same, but the impact grows stronger. Repetition builds endurance. Faith is not just for a moment. It must last through seasons, through trials, through waiting. Repetition keeps the flame alive when time stretches longer than expected. Without repetition, belief can wither during the waiting. With repetition, belief grows stronger in the waiting. Each repeated word is like oil poured into the lamp, keeping the fire burning until the breakthrough comes. Repetition does not mean lack of faith. It means insistence. It means you are unwilling to let go until the door opens. It means you will not settle for closed doors. It means you will not retreat. It means you are applying steady pressure, unwavering focus, relentless pursuit. Repetition is the language of determination. It is the refusal to stop until the unseen becomes seen, until the closed becomes open, until the impossible becomes possible. Open doors lead to healing, provision, and destiny. When a door finally swings wide after being locked and sealed, it does not merely give access to a new room. It reveals a new season, a new reality, a new level of life. Closed doors are barriers that keep people in cycles of pain, poverty, confusion, and limitation. But open doors usher them into freedom, abundance, clarity, and fulfillment. Every closed door hides something valuable behind it, and when it opens, what is hidden becomes available. Healing waits behind one door, provision behind another, destiny behind another, and faith is the key that opens them all. Healing is one of the greatest treasures hidden behind a closed door. So many live in pain, carrying the weight of sickness in their bodies and brokenness in their hearts. They stand outside the door of wholeness, longing to enter, but feeling locked out by diagnoses, limitations, and hopeless words spoken over them. But when faith unlocks that door, healing flows like a river. The moment the hinges turn, light pours in, and what was once impossible becomes reality. Healing of the body, healing of the mind, healing of the emotions, healing of the soul, all of it lies waiting behind the door. Once it opens, weakness gives way to strength, sorrow gives way to joy, despair gives way to hope. The door of healing is not just about relief from pain, but about restoration of identity and purpose. It returns what was stolen, renews what was broken, and revives what was dead. Provision also lies behind the closed doors of life. So many walk in lack, constantly knocking on doors that seem sealed against them, doors of opportunity, doors of employment, doors of resources. They push against them, but they do not move. Yet provision is not absent, it is simply waiting on the other side of the door. The table of abundance has already been prepared, but the entrance must be unlocked. When faith turns the key, doors of provision swing open, and what was scarce becomes plentiful. It may come as unexpected opportunities, as favor with people, as resources flowing from unseen places, or as creative ideas that multiply into harvest. The door of provision leads from survival into overflow, from debt into freedom, from scarcity into generosity. When that door opens, a person does not only receive enough for themselves, but often receives enough to bless others, to lift others, to carry others forward. Provision is not only about what is consumed, but about what is distributed. Destiny lies behind the most significant of all doors. Every life is designed with purpose, yet many never walk into it because the door seems locked. They sense there is more, they dream of something greater, but the way forward is blocked by fear, doubt, distraction, or delay. Destiny waits on the other side, and only when the door opens can a person step into their calling. Destiny is not a vague hope, but a definite assignment, a place of alignment where gifts, passions, and opportunities converge. When the door of destiny opens, everything begins to make sense. Past struggles reveal their purpose, past pain transforms into testimony, past delays turn into preparation. The open door of destiny leads to fulfillment, to impact, to legacy. It is the door that reveals why you were born, why you endured, why you carried the burdens you carried, and why you were preserved until now. Each open door transforms not only the one who enters, but also those connected to them. When the door of healing opens, it encourages others to believe healing is possible for them too. When the door of provision opens, it blesses not only the individual, but their family, their community, even generations to come. When the door of destiny opens, it ripples outward, influencing countless others through one life aligned with purpose. Open doors are never only for one person. They are channels through which blessing, abundance, and direction flow to many. Open doors also change perspective. Before the door opens, the view is limited, the path unclear, the horizon blocked. But once the door swings wide, vision expands. You see what you could not see before. You understand what you could not grasp. You gain clarity about where to go and how to move. An open door is not only about access, but about vision. It allows you to see the possibilities ahead, to perceive the opportunities waiting, to recognize the future calling you forward. Healing, provision, and destiny are interconnected in the journey of open doors. Healing strengthens you to pursue provision. Provision equips you to walk into destiny. Destiny gives meaning to both healing and provision. Together they form the full picture of a life lived with purpose and abundance. One open door often leads to another. The door of healing may lead you into strength that allows you to step into new opportunities of provision. The door of provision may create the foundation that supports the pursuit of destiny. The door of destiny may position you to carry healing and provision to others. Each door is part of a chain, and when one opens, it often sets in motion the opening of others. The doors are not always obvious. Sometimes the door of healing looks like a closed heart, waiting for forgiveness to unlock it. Sometimes the door of provision looks like a small idea, waiting for courage to act on it. Sometimes the door of destiny looks like an ordinary opportunity, waiting for faith to recognize it as extraordinary. The doors may appear small, hidden, or insignificant, but once they open, they reveal vast rooms filled with treasures. Never despise a door because of how it looks from the outside. The true value is what lies behind it. Open doors require courage. Healing requires the courage to let go of pain and embrace wholeness. Provision requires the courage to step into responsibility and stewardship. Destiny requires the courage to walk away from comfort and embrace calling. The door can be wide open, but without courage, a person may still stand outside, afraid to enter. That is why faith is not only the key that unlocks the door, but also the strength that carries you through it. Open doors are moments of transition. They mark the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. They signify movement from limitation into expansion, from captivity into freedom, from wandering into direction. Standing before an open door is a sacred moment because it means the waiting season has ended, the lock has surrendered, and the path is clear. What was once denied is now accessible. What was once delayed is now released. What was once distant is now present. Healing, provision, and destiny are the great treasures waiting behind the doors of life, And every person carries within them the key to unlock them. The act of believing, declaring, and repeating is what turns that key in the lock. And when the hinges move, the doors do not merely creak open, they swing wide to reveal a new life filled with restoration, abundance, and purpose.